Welcome to another Indie Dev Showcase, highlighting the many indie games we play here on the channel. If you'd like to submit a game for a future video, please reach out. But otherwise, let's begin. For our first game, this is Super DynoStory. This is a Metroidvania where an evil bad guy has stolen our gold. We have crash land on a planet, and we are going to have to Metroidvania our way to get our gold back, beat the bad guy, and get back into space. So, the big thing about this game is that when we say it's a Metroidvania, it is very much a Metroidvania. You're going to be unlocking a lot of passive and active abilities. In fact, you start the game literally without the power to jump, and you'll need to explore the world and find the necessary upgrades. In terms of the general platforming and movement, I would say, at least from what we played of it, is on the moderate side. If you have played any kind of Metroidvania platformer in, well, a very long time, then you should be very familiar with it. There are boss fights and combat as well. From what we played of this, I think this is a very solid take on Metroidvania design. Because the world is so open, it does make it a little bit hard at the beginning to kind of find your footing. There is a kind of linear path you must follow at the start, at least to get your basic upgrades, but once you've gotten that out of the way, the world is basically your Metroidvania oyster. So this is one that if you are a fan of Metroidvania design looking for another potentially solid entry in it, I would give this one a check. We now turn to Oakenfold. This is a turn-based strategy game, very similar in terms of structure to that of Into the Breach. It is our job to defend resources and fight off evil aliens, one turn at a time. The general gameplay here is that you can rewind time and alter things based on your little time bank that you see in the upper right hand corner. You'll choose from different starting classes at the beginning of the game. This will determine what abilities you have access to. And the abilities themselves all revolve around doing damage, manipulating enemy or your positions, and again, just doing your best to keep the enemies from getting to their objectives while avoiding taking any damage or letting your resources get destroyed as well. Now, unlike Into the Breach, however, you are only going to be one character, which also means that you are very much limited in terms of what you're able to do at any given time. The difficulty of this one is that, much like Into the Breach, it can kind of feel like some of your turns you are just set up to fail. That if you don't get the right upgrades to your abilities, and the upgrades themselves do change the properties of them, you are not going to be able to keep your resources alive, and of course you can begin that downward spiral effect. With that said, there is some interesting design here. Again, if you are a fan of the kind of Into the Breach almost tactical puzzle style game, I know the game has been updated since when we tried this one out in 2022, but I haven't had a chance to go back and see what is new. So if you are a fan of tactical strategy and you're looking for another Into the Breach-like, I would at least give this one a check. We turn to a different kind of strategy with Dice Tribe's Ambition. This is a kind of, I guess, dice-based management style game. The structure here is that you have different villagers. They are represented by dice. You can train up or change the job of your dice to various things. The different jobs will affect not only the values of each face of the dice, but also modifiers based on the job they work. So if you have a farmer dice and you put them to work in the farming spot, their dice rolls will be modified to be more positive. If you have researchers, warriors, and you get the picture. Your mission is to go after one of several goals, such as take over other places, reach enlightenment, get enough resources or build a large enough village, and so on and so forth. The challenge is that you need to constantly balance the food and the resources you're bringing in with the villagers you have, as well as growing your village out to get access to more things, and rinse and repeat. This is one of those games that it's very interesting in its approach, kind of like a quasi board game that you can play. It can be a little tricky to learn at the start. Again, once you start, much like in our last game, that downward spiral, if you're not good enough, it can be very hard to pull out of it. You have ways of manipulating the faces of the dice, such as being able to re-roll them, and again, the different jobs will have different modifiers to where you place them. So if you are someone who likes strategy games a little bit on the different side, and you don't mind, well, a lot of dice rolling, I would certainly give this one a check, because we really haven't seen a game that goes quite like this, at least not in a long while. We now turn to One Many Nobody. This is a puzzle platformer. We are trapped in a dystopian factory, which apparently is being powered by a mysterious source, and we're going to need to figure out what that is. Our kind of puzzle mechanic here is that we have the power to clone ourselves. You can set up clones that can be either ordered to do specific things, they may mirror your own ability to move around, and you'll need to make use of them in order to get yourself, or at least one of yourselves, to the exit or complete other objectives. There's a pretty good variety of puzzle design in this one. It can be a little tricky at times. There's some kind of precise platforming you'll need to do, or get some of the timing really precise in a few of those areas. But this one felt pretty interesting to play. It reminds me a little bit of the Swapper in that you're able to kind of again have the power of you, and you in order to solve various puzzles. But this one does not go as far in terms of platforming tech. You're not going to be having to do too much in terms of advanced jumping. It's just that the jumping and general movement can be tricky in terms of avoiding spikes or doing some of the more advanced elements. So if you do enjoy a puzzle platformer, I would definitely check this one out and once again see if it strikes your fancy. We have more platforming for this showcase with Bzzzt, and I'll make sure to include the store page down below, because I'm not sure if you can actually spell Bzzzt, but in Bzzzt, this is a precision platformer. We play a robot who must complete various challenges and obstacle courses in order to, of course, save the future from evil. So the game structure is very similar to that of a Super Meat Boy, or more in the kind of arcadey style platformers. Each stage is a giant obstacle course that you must run through it. If you want to get 100%, you must get all the MacGuffins and do it within the proper time. The general platforming here is that you'll run, you'll jump, and you can also perform a dash and double jump as well. There are quote-unquote boss stages as well that you must kind of auto-scroll your way around and try and defeat the enemy at the same time. From what we played of the demo, this again is very solid 2D platforming. I don't know if there's going to be anything too out of the ordinary for the genre itself, but this is one that there's going to be both kind of the easy and hardcore difficulty, but it's definitely going to be designed for people who like their platformers to be on the challenging and precise side, which again works for someone like yours truly here. So from what we played, again, very solid take. The demo should still be available by the time you're watching this, and the full game should be coming out soon. So if you like platforming and you like saying the word Bzzzt, then be sure to check this one out. For the last game of our showcase, this is Mcpixel 3, the sequel to Mcpixel 1. Don't think about that one too hard. This is an adventure game where you play as the hero Mcpixel, who gets into lots and lots of crazy situations, and you'll only have a few seconds at a time in order to solve the case and get out alive. The game itself is kind of like a mix between an adventure game and WarriorWare, as you'll go from one wacky situation to the next and try and figure out all the many ways that you can fail and maybe succeed along the way. So this is definitely a game for someone looking for a very weirdly funny adventure game, as you'll go from one situation to the next, and again, this game goes all over the place. In terms of the puzzle logic, well, the logic kind of goes out the window very early on. And if you're hoping for something that has like a little bit more like seriousness to it, this is definitely not the series for you. But if you like your puzzle solving with a whole lot of explosions and excitement, then definitely check this one out. That's going to do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to do the YouTubing stuff people tell you to do. If you're interested in more of my thoughts on design, check out my books wherever they are sold. Visit our Discord and Patreon, and come back for daily discussions on game design here, and on game wisdom, where you some of the art and science of games.